Living fully alive in every way. You're listening to Relationship Prescriptions with Dr. Carol.
Hello once again, and welcome to Relationship Prescriptions with Dr. Carol. There has been something stirring in my heart that I believe will be of help to you, an encouragement to you. When we are moving forward with something that is important to us, maybe it's something that we believe God has opened the door for us to step into, and everything is falling apart, what then? It can be easy at those times to say, well, because there are so many problems, it must be that God doesn't want me to do this. Or maybe, am I doing something wrong and that's why this is happening? There can be many potential reasons why everything is falling apart. But I want to share a period in my life when that happened, and some very, very important lessons that I learned that I know will be encouraging to you. 10 years ago, right about this time, this month, 10 years ago, my husband and I were planning our wedding. God brought Al and me together. Later in life, neither one of us were looking for a partner. Neither one of us thought we would ever marry. God brought the two of us together in a very beautiful way. We did a lot of praying and all of that, and we were planning to get married, which we did in October of 2008. Because Al was a little older than me and because of some other factors, I had already done a great deal of praying on my own prior to proceeding with agreeing to get married. As our wedding day got closer, there were some really big things that started to fall apart. About 3.5 weeks before we were to be married, the minister who I had asked to marry us backed out. I was on the plane at the time, traveling between Texas and California. When I landed in California, there was a text message from the preacher's wife saying they would not be able to come to the wedding. They had other responsibilities that weekend, and even though they had said they would marry us, they were not going to. The same week, the lady that I had asked to stand up with me at my wedding as a matron of honor backed out, said she would not come to the wedding. Okay, we moved forward. Al asked a friend of his who was a preacher to marry us. He was glad to do so. I asked someone else to stand up for me at the wedding. We were moving forward. We came to Austin where we were planning to be married, and the night before we were to be married, the friend who had come with his wife to handle some of the logistics. He was going to be handling the music for the wedding and take care of some of those things. He was becoming very ill, and in the middle of the night before our wedding, he had to leave, and his wife took him to the hospital. And so there was nobody to do the music. The afternoon prior to our wedding, I was trying to download some music off the internet so we would have some kind of music for the wedding. And so that was all a mess. Our wedding itself was a beautiful, beautiful evening. The preacher who, in place of the one I had initially asked, gave us a charge at our wedding. It was one of the most inspiring God moments beyond just Al and me getting married. We were given a charge in ministry, and it opened up some things in our hearts that we would have never imagined. During the night after our wedding, the friend who had to leave and go to the hospital because he was ill passed away. The following morning, right after Al and I woke up in our hotel room, the preacher who had married us called Al and told him that our friend had passed away. Well, not only was he a friend, and not only was this gentleman supposed to be handling the music for our wedding, he was also going to be handling the radio station where Al was the manager so that we could go on our honeymoon. So we had to immediately head back to where the radio station was so that Al could handle that radio station. We had a one-night honeymoon, and Al immediately had to go back to work right after that. So many things fell apart in the logistics around our wedding. But the outcome of that whole experience was incredibly beautiful. The way that our marriage came together became a blessing to many other people beyond what it could have been for just us. Yes, Al and I were both deeply blessed by our love for each other, but what our marriage meant beyond ourselves was a testament to that our marriage was a God thing. God had planned to bring us together, and the fruit of our relationship was a very clear demonstration that that was the case. I would never have been able to push through those issues in coming up to our wedding if I had not wrestled with God about that previously. For several weeks prior to agreeing to get married, and then during the early part of our engagement, I spent some very deep times of prayer with God. And I prayed this way. I said, Lord, I know what my emotions want. I know my emotions are hooked into this relationship, and I love this man. I want to get married, but I also know that my emotions are not an adequate basis for making such an important decision. As much as I, as a human being, can, I lay my emotions aside, and I need to hear from you. If you are in this, if you are bringing us together and you are directing us to get married, it doesn't matter what the obstacles will be. It doesn't matter what challenges we will face. You will bless our relationship if you are in this. But if you are not, it doesn't matter what I want. This relationship will only turn into destruction and trouble and pain if you are not in this. So I need to hear from you, and I put my emotions to the side as best as I, as a human being, can. Each time I went to the Lord in that way, truly putting my emotions to the side as best as I humanly could, there was a green light from God to go ahead. And so we proceeded. I based my actions when those challenges came up around the wedding itself. I based my actions on what I had heard from God, knowing that I had put my emotions to the side as best as I could. And the fruit of all of that, the fruit of our whole relationship between Al and me, verified that that was true, that God was in this. What I want to say to you is that if you are wrestling with a big decision, if you are in the middle of something where it looks like everything is falling apart and nothing is going according to plan, I encourage you to do two things. One, acknowledge your emotions, but then put them aside and go to God in that very framework. Go to God with that position, acknowledging to God and to yourself what you want or what you're afraid of or what you're anxious about, whatever those emotions are. Acknowledge them, and then as much as you humanly can, put those emotions to the side and be open before God that you need to hear His voice, regardless of what your emotions say. God always speaks, and He always knows what is best. Our human ability to hear Him can be somewhat limited. It would have been possible that I could have been mistaken. I could not have put my emotions aside adequately. We can never do that perfectly as human beings, but we can certainly come so much closer to hearing God's voice and understanding his purpose when we do put our emotions to the side. And because I had done that very thing repeatedly prior to getting married, those obstacles that came up around Al and my wedding, we got past, and none of that dissuaded me or us. The second thing I want to encourage you to do is when you face those obstacles, embrace them as God training you. He does not enjoy it when we hurt. He does not like it for us to have troubles. But everything that does come to us, he has an absolute miraculous way of taking those very struggles and turning them into something beautiful. It's not that he brings us troubles to teach us a lesson or to shape us up. There's plenty of troubles in this messed up, sinful, broken world. God doesn't have to bring us new troubles. But things that do come, he takes and uses those to grow us up. When our country faces serious trouble, threats, or terrorism, or whatever, the worst circumstances that our country has to deal with, who do they send? They send in the soldiers who have trained the hardest, whether that's SEAL Team 6 or Green Berets or Army Rangers or whatever. They send in elite forces that have been through really deep, horrendous training. And if you have ever heard about how some of those elite forces do train, it is tough. Most of us, me included, I don't think we would never be able to go through that training. But those who do, they can be trusted by our government to go into the most dangerous situations and deal with it. And it's not like when those soldiers are dropped behind enemy lines, they can't suddenly call up headquarters and say, what do I do now? They have to be trained so that they can act in that moment. I believe God takes troubles that we go through and uses them to train us so that when things come up where God needs someone to act for his kingdom in a way that he can trust, that we are ready. Looking back on that experience of getting married and the things that God trained me in during that time has been very important for me now in some of the decisions that I'm having to make, even during this period of ministry. And I have the very clear sense that God is asking, can I trust you? Can God trust me with the challenges that he brings me to face? The biggest problems are an opportunity to step in with the training that God brings us to. I ask you today, can God trust you in the situations that you are facing? And God never brings us into something that we can't handle, that we haven't had training for. It's not that we are out here on our own. We do have the Holy Spirit with us. But God wants to trust you. He wants to trust me. Can he do that? In the challenges that you're facing, even when everything is falling apart, that's what I encourage you to do. Acknowledge your emotions and set them aside as best as you can to hear God's voice, and then embrace the training aspect of what those circumstances are bringing to you. I hope this has been encouraging to you. I'm sure that some of you listening are facing things where it looks like everything falls apart. And I hope this can give you some encouragement in knowing how to proceed and how to pray. We're releasing this podcast just a few days before our Changed conference. And I just want to remind you that we still have seats, we still have tickets, and we would love to have you come this coming Saturday, September 15, 2018, to our Changed Conference here in Austin, Texas. You can find details on our website, drcarolministries.com. There on our homepage, you'll see the banner about the Changed Conference, finding out how spiritual transformation happens. The things that we experience in life aren't only something to get past, there's something to grow through. That is only one of the tools that God uses to grow us up and to experience the transformation that He wants for each one of us. We'll be talking about several of those practical tools that God invites us to embrace in growing with Him to become the people that He has called us to be. And I would welcome having you come to our Changed Conference. If you have a comment or a question, I'd also love to hear from you, whether about the topic here on this episode or something that you'd like me to talk about on an upcoming episode. You can leave a comment on the podcast page on our website, and I'll read each one of those personally. And now, until next time, may God richly bless you.
Thank you for listening to Relationship Prescriptions with Dr. Carol. Our purpose is to provide trustworthy resources that help you and others live fully alive in every way as God intended. If you would like to help others experience transformation in their lives and relationships, we invite you to partner with us. Text the word GIVE, that's GIVE, to the number 512-980-1620. Or visit our website at drcarolministries.com/donate to make a one-time contribution or monthly gift. Your financial support allows us to expand our message and to help others. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.